This seeming contradiction was part of the fusillade of talking points that McConnell designed to publicly push back on the Democrats' first major piece of legislation, which the House passed on March 8 but has no chance of passing the Republican-controlled Senate. For the People Act, or H.R. 1, was intended to lay out the party's priorities for ethics, voting rights, and campaign finance reform. There is no evidence to support McConnell's most serious accusations, but the Kentucky Republican is once again honing in on a series of arcane but important issues with big implications for election outcomes, such as campaign finance and voting rights, as he has throughout his political career. In this case, McConnell's focus is on the collection of absentee ballots by third parties, known as ballot harvesting, at a time when there is an ongoing debate about the best way for states to do this. It's a core part of our constitutional system, McConnell said January 31, lambasting the Democrats' bill as a federal takeover of election law. The Voter Protection Act contains no effort whatsoever to crack down on ballot harvesting, McConnell said on February 26. This practice makes elections a kind of scavenger hunt to see which side's operatives can return with the most ballots in the trunks of their cars, McConnell said. A system that invites political operatives to be rewarded for ballots will be open to misbehavior, McConnell said. Remember, it is illegal in North Carolina. But, McConnell said, it's a common practice in California. California allows anyone, not just family members, anyone to show up at a polling place on election day with ballots that are not theirs. This was a subtle sleight of hand by McConnell. The North Carolina fraud would have been illegal in California as well, because Dowless didn't just collect absentee ballots. He and others also filled in ballots and signed them illegally. There have been no cases of known fraud in California since the state legislature passed a law in 2016 widening the range of people who can collect absentee or vote by mail ballots and turning them in for others. Yet McConnell insinuated that Democrats won a series of close House races in California through this new method of collecting absentee ballots. This past election cycle turned out favorably for California Democrats. Amazingly enough, these late-arriving ballots seemed to help turn several races their way, McConnell said. This is false, according to Mike Madrid, a veteran Republican consultant in California politics who closely studied the results. Republicans are looking for another reason to find for the fact that President Trump brought down the House, Madrid said. The Republican Party has much bigger concerns to explain why it's getting its ass kicked. In fact, many Republican campaigns in competitive districts did the same ballot harvesting that Democrats engaged in. Democrats just did it better, and had a more energized voter base, something acknowledged even by Republicans, who are now planning ways to improve their own ballot harvesting in future elections, according to the Washington Post. There is one aspect of the California law that has come up for nonpartisan criticism, however. There's no evidence that the ballot collection law was misused, even in the few reported cases when people turned in dozens of collected ballots. But, and this is an important but, the Democrats set themselves up for exactly these kinds of allegations when they passed what really is an overly permissive ballot collection law, the Los Angeles Times editorial board wrote in December. It was written without sufficient safeguards, and suspicions of abuse were inevitable. To reiterate, there's absolutely no reason to suspect fraud in last month's election, not through ballot harvesting or in the large number of provisional ballots turned in or how long it took to count ballots, the Times wrote. But the ballot collection law passed in 2106 does open the door to coercion and fraud and should be fixed or repealed before the next election. Weiser, from the Brennan Center, said she was not sure if that would be the right place to focus. She allowed that if somebody's doing it at high volume there might be a risk that they might make a mistake and lose some. That would require study, she said.